What's up, everyone? Here we are again with another tier list. So obviously, a lot of you probably noticed there was no March tier list. The reason for this is that my tier lists have been coming out near the end of the month, and then patches have also been coming out near the end of the month. So what's been happening is the tier list has been coming out slightly after the patch, and then obviously it's like a little bit inaccurate because we haven't had time for the patch to settle in, for a new meta to develop. So I decided to skip over March entirely and bring out this one a little bit earlier in April. So hopefully our tier lists will now line up better with the patches, probably coming out before patches, hopefully. At least that's the intention. Okay, so first things first, let's go through what the tiers mean again. So S tier, we're going to use the same descriptions we've been using for a while now. So S tier is going to be the God tier, probably overpowered, potentially needs nerfs. This is the best units in the game right now. A tier is extremely strong units. B tier is the good units. So like most high tier decks you see will be built of S, A, and B tier units. C tier is playable but generally not great. So these are specialist units that you will only see in specific decks. Examples of this are things like the MSV, which obviously is a core unit in the MSV deck, but you would never play it anywhere else. So that's why it's in C. And then D are the trash units, in my opinion. The units that you really just shouldn't really like. You should only be playing them really as a meme. That they're even in dedicated decks, they're pretty bad. Or there's always a better option. This is why Flames and Shocks are in D tier, not because they're awful, but because there's basically no reason to ever play them. There's always a better choice, so you should just never choose them in your deck. Okay, obviously this tier list is based on my opinion and the opinion of a group of players that I have talked to about the tier list before going in, and it is based on tournament play and high ladder play. So this might not line up with your experiences of units, but this is based on the top play in the game. Alright, let's take a look at the commanders. So here you can see the previous commander tier list, and here is the new updated one. Not much has changed here. Liang is still super broken, he's still an S. Oksana and Kayn, Oksana and Seth, sorry, are still vastly superior options to Jade and Kayn, except obviously Jade for base kills. It's the only thing Jade really does. Solomon, now that the bug is fixed, he's down to B tier. He doesn't kill bases anymore. That's what made him really good, so he's down in B tier now. He's still okay. At 130 cost, the Iron Cannon isn't a joke anymore. It's an okay ability, but I do like he's so much worse than Liang. In fact, all the GDI commanders are just so much worse than Liang that they're all languishing down here. They're all fine, they're all playable, but they're not close to Liang. There's no reason to play them when you should just be playing Liang in basically every deck in the game. There's maybe one or two decks that want Jackson where you desperately need a boost on a unit, but realistically you should be playing Liang in every single deck because it's just the most broken commander by a lot. Yeah, Jade's still in C, only really good for the base kill, and Kayn in D. Kayn is still terrible. Kayn needs a lot. The Obelisk needs a lot more hit points, I think, to be playable. The only time Kayn has ever been playable is when the Obelisk had about 12,000 hit points. At the moment, it's got 5,000. So yeah, Kayn's still languishing down in D, despite being my favorite commander. I still play him for fun, but he sucks, sadly. Alright, let's move on to the Nod units. Here's the old Nod listing, and here is the new Nod listing. So as you can see, again, not much has changed really in the metagame right now. The biggest change is the Shade, which was previously an S, is now down to B. It's a solid unit, but it's actually too good probably for its cost. But it's so hard to build a good Shade deck. No one has really found what a good Shade deck yet. So because of that, I can't put it in A or S when it just isn't seeing that much play. Because it's really hard to build a right deck around it. Shade could easily be back in A or potentially even S if it had the right combination of units with it. Say, for example, Razorback was a Nod unit. Shade would probably like jump back up to S because a Shade Razorback deck would be disgusting in a way that a Shade Venom deck just isn't. So yeah, Shade down in B tier now, not because it sucks per se, just because it's really difficult to find a really good Shade deck to play Shade in. Stealth Tank and Fnatic, I've put them in S tier now. This is the best thing you can be doing with Nod at the moment. Stealth Tank Fnatic is super broken. Previously, I've mentioned that they would be in S tier as a combination before, but on their own individually, I was putting them in A tier. Now that the Razorback has been nerfed and isn't as dominant as it was, the Stealth Tank Fnatic decks can actually beat Razorback decks now, whereas before it was very, very hard to do, even with boosted Stealth Tanks. That's why they were in A, but now that that menace has been nerfed a little bit, it's impossible to suggest that Fnatics aren't insanely broken. They're just outrageous. They're just so good. They're easily the best thing that Nod has available. You should basically always be playing Fnatics right now. They're just crazy good. The only time you don't play Fnatics is when you're trying to counter Fnatics by playing like a Chem deck, which is good versus Fnatics. But yeah, Fnatics are absolutely super gross. Obviously, they require a high level of skill to get the maximum value out of them because they are made of paper, so they do die extremely easily. But 2 Fnatics in a concave will annihilate any infantry, including Confessor, which is a tech tier and anti-infantry unit. Confessor walking into 2 Fnatics will get crushed by them. So yeah, they're absolutely nuts. This is the main reason that Flames and Shocks are in D tier as well, is because if you come up against a Fnatic wheel deck, which is basically all Nod decks right now, they just shred your Flames and Shocks for much cheaper. They'll either use boosted wheels or just 2 Fnatics in a concave to annihilate your Flames and Shocks. So yeah, that's the main reason Flames and Shocks are in D, is because Fnatics and Razorbacks punish them so hard. Stealth Tank's also in S. In the current metagame, Stealth Tank is insane. Everyone's playing Razorbacks, Pitbulls, Scorpion, even Scorpion Tank. Scorpion Tank almost dies to a Stealth Tank volley. The main counter to Stealth Tanks is Predator Tank, which not that many people are playing right now. Stealth Tank has always been held back by Predators. That's like its main natural counter, but not that many Predators are seeing play right now. So Stealth Tank probably doesn't deserve S tier without Fnatics, but it is extremely good right now, and because Fnatic Stealth Tank is the meta deck, I've put them both in S tier. Fnatics definitely deserve to be in S tier at the moment, but Stealth Tank really only deserves S tier along with the Fnatics. I've also moved Inferno up to A. Inferno got a hit point boost a while ago, and the more I see Infernos, the more I'm starting to think that actually they're pretty nuts. An Inferno does about 6,000 damage if you bomb a base and hit both tiles, plus the fire damage. That's the same as Iron Cannon used to do. So 2 Inferno shots basically destroys half a base, which is absolutely gross. And again, with boosts, these units are gross. Without boosts, they're kind of whatever. But with Oksana and Fnatic, to allow them to get boosts regularly, sometimes even double boosts, they're insane. A double boosted Inferno that has dropped its bomb is, I believe, the fastest unit in the game. It can cross the map in like 3 seconds, which is truly insane. If you actually count how long it takes a unit to travel a tile, I think a laser troop can travel 1 tile in about the time a double boosted Inferno that has dropped its bomb can cross the entire map. So they are absolutely disgusting. Obviously, they are expensive and a little bit fragile still, so you do have to play them well. But when played well, they are an extremely powerful unit. Not good enough to be S tier still, I think, but in combination with the boosts and the Fnatics and so on, they feel like they definitely should be an A tier unit at least. So I've moved them up. Other things that are interesting to talk about. Chem Buggy is in B. That potentially could be A. Chem Buggy is very strong, but it's held back by the Fnatic decks. Fnatic decks just hunt down Chem Buggies so easily because they boost their tanks or their Shades or their Banshees or their Stealth Tanks or whatever. And they just annihilate the Chem Buggy so quickly that Chem Buggy is in B basically just because of the metagame again. Scorpion's in B because, again, like it's not that strong against the Razorback decks. So even though it's a very good unit and it's very good with the Fnatics, it's still sitting in B. And also Stealth Tank is replacing it in a lot of decks. And I want to talk about all of the Nod Tech units. All of the Nod Tech units are in C and D. Oh, my convoy's arrived. Sorry about that, guys. All of the units, Nod Tech units are in C and D because of the natural weakness of tech in Rivals. Most games, a lot of games of Rivals, I'm not going to say most, but like high tier Rivals, a lot of games end without tech coming out. Any of these tech units that come out, except for the Widowmaker, will have a pretty big impact on the game. The Widowmaker is absolute trash. The rest of them will all have a reasonably big impact on a game if they arrive in time, but generally speaking, games in high tier Rivals end before they do, and that's why they're sitting in C and D. Not because the units themselves are bad. Once you get them out, they're extremely powerful. It's more the fact that most games end without them having a relevant impact. So that's why most of them are in C and D. Like the Flame Tank, the Basilisk, the Avatar, the Rockworm, the Confessor. I would say all of these units are very powerful once they're on the field, especially the Rockworm, the Avatar. Those two are very strong. But getting them out is normally quite difficult, and that's why they languish in C and D, because in high tier rivals, tech is just inherently quite weak. Also, the Banshee is in C because of the prevalence of stealth tanks and phantoms. So Banshee is just getting one shot by everything right now. So Banshee is really bad in the metagame. Okay, hopefully that covers most of the things and also answers questions people will have preemptively. Let's move on to GDI. Here's the old GDI list, and here you can see the new GDI list. So GDI has had about the same number of changes as Nod. Really very, very little changes in the metagame right now. The Razorback is still S tier, it's still too strong. Most top GDI decks are still Razorback based. So yeah, it's too good. Still needs a nerf. I don't know what the nerf should be though. If you nerf its hit points, I think it becomes unplayable. If you've ever played with a Razorback against a Phantom that's one level higher than you, you'll understand that your Razorback is no longer a unit in the game, effectively. So I do feel a little bit like a hit point nerf will hurt it too much, but it's hard to work out what to do with it exactly. And obviously, missiles are into A tier, where lasers are in B tier. This is because missiles combo insanely well with the Razorback. Like, the Razorback missile combo is the standard thing that GDI does, and this is what gives them the huge economy lead, because it's such an efficient combination. So that's why missiles are back in A. The Orca Bomber is also in A currently. It's just a disgusting unit. I hate how Orca Bomber functions. I think it should just be deleted from the game, honestly. The way it works, it's always going to be too good or rubbish. It's just, I don't see how, it's so hard to build it in such a way that it functions but isn't completely terrible or isn't overpowered. So yeah, balancing the Orca Bomber is a nightmare. Mammoth is in A as well, despite its recent nerf. Mammoth is still a significant win condition in all tech mirrors. It's like the strongest unit in the game still, but it is very expensive. And Gary GG, as you guys might know him, still plays his Zone Trooper Mammoth deck. He still wins with Mammoth all the time, so he's still doing fine, even despite the nerfs to Zone Troopers and Mammoth. So yeah, I think Mammoth still deserves its spot in A. The Mohawk is down to B. This is just because it doesn't perform as well as it did against Pitbulls and Bikes, so I don't really think it deserves its A tier anymore. It's still pretty good, but it's no longer the dominant force. You're not seeing these Mohawk Razorback decks as much as you used to. Those decks tend to be moving away from the Mohawk and moving towards other anti-vehicle options, such as the Titan. This is why Titan is now in C tier. SRPSS has been winning all of the tournaments lately by just playing a Razorback Missile Pitbull Titan deck, basically, with Hammerhead. And his game plan every game is to win early game with Missiles and Razorbacks, or at least stall early game with Missiles and Razorbacks, and then make Titans and destroy his opponent's economy. The Titan doesn't actually do very much against the enemy units, but it blows up the Harvesters, and then it sits on pads, and it's indestructible with Liang. And then SRPSS has infinite money, so he can spam Hammerheads and Razorbacks, which kills everything. Like, a Titan, a Hammerhead, and a Razorback will kill infantry vehicles and air. So that's kind of why Titan's up to C tier. Not because Titan's a great unit now, just because I can't leave Titan in D tier when the most successful tournament deck right now is a Titan deck. But I've tried it on ladder, and I think it is mostly a tournament deck. It has a lot of weaknesses to random things that you run into in ladder games that you don't see that often in tournaments. So yeah, Titan is in C, but I still don't like the unit that much. Sandstorm and Zones have been bumped down to C. The bug fix on Zone Troopers has made them significantly less powerful. They're a much more reasonable unit now that the bug has been fixed, where they were firing too quick, like they're firing their shots too quickly. Their firing pattern effectively was burst fire. They're a lot weaker now. They're a lot more reasonable as a unit, and now they're back in C, along with all the other tech. The same reason that Nod's tech is in C and D. Not because the units themselves suck. Well, the D tier ones do. I think Kodiak, Wolverine, Disruptor, and Juggernaut are all pretty terrible. But the C tier ones are pretty powerful units. It's just hard to get them out. And then Sandstorm is down in C now. With the hit point nerf, it's so much weaker. I think a Predator can almost 1v1 a Sandstorm now. With Liang, I think the Predator will actually win against the Sandstorm. So yeah, Sandstorm's a lot weaker. And obviously the hit point nerf also massively affects how much healing it receives from Liang. So Sandstorm used to be able to beat 2 missile troops, 2v1, when it had Liang. Now it doesn't even come close. So yeah, Sandstorm's a lot weaker. Sandstorm potentially, I can't put it in D yet because it does still do a lot of damage and it does a multi-roll unit. But yeah, it's pretty bad right now. It has definitely received a significant nerf. Another unit I'd like to talk about is snipers are in C simply because of Razorbacks, pretty much. You just don't want to be playing snipers in the Razorback meta. So, but they are a good unit. If people were not playing Razorbacks, they'd probably be an A tier unit, but they're super weak to Razorbacks. MG is in C tier still. I'm not sure about this. MG is a lot stronger now that the Razorback is a lot slower. But, again, it's not really MG that's strong, it's Liang. Without Liang, MG is comically bad still. It's just that it's insane with Liang, because it heals at something like 3 times the rate it's supposed to. I don't really understand what's going on there, but if you try getting a Shock Trooper, which has about the same hit points as an MG, and healing it alongside an MG, the MG heals significantly faster. So I think that's probably bugged, but it's every time they've ever tried to change Liang, it's led to more bugs, so we're probably stuck with it. So yeah, I don't know if MG should be in C tier, but I think that the prevalence of Orca Bomber and Razorback makes them a little bit weak still. I don't think there's really a lot else to talk about here. That covers most of the things, you know, that I think people are going to question me on. So yeah, Hammerhead is in B again, also because of the Titan deck with Hammerhead, and also because of the air metagame. It is actually quite strong right now. Yeah, hopefully that covers all the questions before you guys ask them. But yeah, if anyone has anything to ask about why something is in a specific tier, please comment or let me know what you think is wrong. And I hope you enjoyed this tier list video, and I'll see you guys next time.